Normatec recovery systems give you a high-tech compression massage for warm-up pre-workout and recovery post-workout.
The technology is very safe and is used by a broad range of athletic types and really any fitness enthusiast looking to get the most out of their workout.
The whole idea is that we're using air compression to help increase circulation in the body. We wanted to mimic physiology, the way the body moves fluids. We went ahead and took a lot of those principles and put it into a system that you can use on your different extremities and your hips as well.
Normatec has been an industry leader in pneumatic compression, providing improved mobility and profound healing for thousands of patients. We continually work with researchers to study and develop the effectiveness of our technology.
It's all about creating that community space where people have a conversation around recovery and start really challenging their beliefs in what is possible and what they've known and maybe what could be.
Come on, move. Of course, there aren't any spots. A few minutes won't hurt anybody. Thanks, Grandma.
Paralyzed Veterans of America works tirelessly every day to create a more accessible America. Let's leave the accessible spaces to the people who actually need them. Whatever the reason, excuses don't excuse. Join PVA and be part of the solution. Honor the spot.
Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to ZeniMax live streams covering today's Community Echelon Racing League. We are currently sitting, waiting for the riders to arrive in the pen for round 6, or stage 6 of this Echelon Community League, which parallels the Pro League, which runs 2 weeks after every community race. Currently, there's the schedule there. This is the Community Series dates. We've already had some great critic races in Indy, as well as in the Tour of America, Daryl and Tulsa crit. A TT last time in the Tour of Gila, or Gila. Dave didn't know myself, and I don't know myself whether it's Gila or Gila, but never mind. And we've also had the Gateway Cup and the Iron Horse Bicycling Classic. This week, however, it is the Tulsa Tough. And this community race will no doubt be very well scheduled and also very well represented. And here we go, the 21 or 22 Pro Series League dates. And we can see that the Pro League follows the week later. This is for a couple of reasons. One is it allows us to spread the races out so you get good coverage every week. But also, one of the great things that the Echelon community or the Echelon Racing League do is they allow the top 10 racers who finish first or finish in the top 10 positions in the community leagues to race in the Pro Leagues with the big names themselves. And we're seeing some great performances from the community guys so far in the Pro League. But in the A-race standings, we've got 4 of our 5 top racers racing the pros, and in the women we've got the 2 of the top 5 racing in the Women's Pro Series 2. So this is fantastic. We also, for the first time in any racing series, have an individual paracycling and hand cycling categories as well. RGT very diligently reproducing a hand cycle within game, and we have cycling for the paralyzed athletes too. And this is really testament to the Echelon's ethos. So the Echelon Community Racing League is both a community and a pro racing series, and it's supporting the Echelon, the Project Echelon. Here's today's course. It's the Tulsa Tough. Now, if anybody is listening or watching in the USA, they will have no doubt heard of the Tulsa Tough series. The Tulsa Tough itself is a 3-day cycling festival held in Tulsa, in Oklahoma. It's held every single year on the Friday, Saturday and Sunday in the second weekend in June. So it's a hot affair. And this course today is a triangular crit course, and it covers a famous hill called the Crybaby Hill. This is the last part of the grueling River Parks Crite Race, and it serves as the annual finale of the Tulsa Tough Race. The Tulsans line this hill to cheer them on in costumes, plenty of Tulsa spirit, and it's actually grown to be one of the largest parties and social events in the city in the annual calendar. And here we are, lining up with 3 seconds to go till the off. And here they go. So we've got a small field in the community field there today, so it'll be interesting to see how this pans out. We have the women in the women starting off first of all, and currently in the women's race we have, this is currently led by Jackie Godby, and this is an open series, so this is open to all qualities of races. So currently Jackie Godby, who's also racing in the Pro League, and as it happens, she's also leading the Pro League racing in the community. Maybe she's saving her legs for a couple of weeks' time. We've also got in the Women's Open, we've got Jackie Godby, Anna Ronick-Eichen, Kate Ouellette, Gabrielle Sherman and Eva Marie Dora are our first 5 races. And we can see Eva Marie making a very early start on this Crybaby Hill, which is actually just a little short punchy climb. It's 2 small climbs, actually 2 punchy climbs, about 21 meters in elevation both times in the whole of the lap. So it's not a big climbing event, but these little punchy climbs are just perfect for crit courses, just to break the field up. We'll see this is where most of the attacks will happen, and we can see already that blistering start has caused these front 4 riders to break away from chasing riders. So we've got Dora in there, rocking in there, but we don't see Jackie Godby. So Jackie Godby currently has a quite comfortable 240 point lead in the women's series, so maybe she is having a week off to let her legs recover. Maybe she's actually there in Tulsa herself, kind of living it up in good old Tulsa time. And for those who are avid music followers, you remember that great song by I remember it by Eric Clapton, Tulsa Time. It was actually written by Danny Flowers in 1978, but Eric Clapton covered it most famously in 1972, and then it really hit the big time when he covered it in 1984, I believe, when he did his live album Just One Night. Just One Night with Eric Clapton. Any of you guys had Just One Night with Eric Clapton? I certainly haven't, but my dad has actually met Eric Clapton. Claim to fame #1, and they actually sing Tulsa Time. But back to the racing. Here we go. We can see these 4 ladies have absolutely broken free of the rest of the crowd, and I'm expecting this to be the lead group that takes it around. Now what would be interesting is this is a 25 lap race. So this is going to be a bit of a stage of attrition, I think. Well, whether we're going to see any early attacks with such a small field, I don't know. Whether these four ladies will stick it together for the time being, or whether they will actually really start attacking. And we can see there, Anna's already on the attack on this second lap we're already seeing some big attacks going up in this first hill. So it may be this is not going to be a nice little cruise round on a Saturday afternoon in Tulsa, just to kind of get some points. Anna currently is doing extremely well in this series. So currently she's raced in 3 of the races. She came first in the Intercrit series, she came third in the Tour of America's Dairyland Toast Crit, and then she came 4th again in the Gateway Cup at Benton Park. She's missed the last couple of races, so even though she's missed 2 races, she's sitting comfortably in 2nd position with Kate Ouellette, who's currently in the top 3 there as well, with Ono, who's only 43 points behind her. Now Kate is actually on a good run. She's been in the last 3 races, and last time she came 2nd in the ladies TT around the Tour of Gala. So Kate may be on good form today, so we could see a good race here today. Whether Kate can actually start increasing her points again, so she's come from maybe about 8th and 9th to begin with in the Gateway Cup at Benton Park, through to 3rd, through to 2nd. Is today going to be the day that she wins her first stage of the series? But will we see Eve Marie holding her at bay? Eve Marie currently has managed to compete in 2 of the events, again finishing in the top 5 races. So these 4 of all decent caliber. They've all been in, fielded some good results, so we should see a good spread of activity here, and we can see a good spread of nations there as well. So we've got Kate, who's representing the USA, Anna Ranikainen, who's representing Finland, Davison, who's representing Boris, Scotland. She's probably getting a good suntan there. And of course we have got Eva Marie Dora, who's representing Germany. So we're in to the 2.8 kilometers, 2 laps gone, another 30 kilometers to go. So we still have a good bit of time for these ladies to get settled in, get themselves into a rhythm, see whether they're going to attack. And we're seeing these attacks constantly. Anna is constantly making these girls work up this first section of the hill. This gets really steep, 11.3%, so it's not long, it's not grueling, but it's just punchy. This is the kind of course that really suits riders who've got oodles of power in the type 2 twitch fibers in their quads, but it is absolutely draining. So we'll see these girls pushing hard up the hill and then dropping off the power to get a little bit of recovery down the other side of the hill before they're punching up again. There's Boaz, who's currently in the 5th rider on the road. She's 150 meters behind the front 4, so so I think what happened is that Marisa didn't quite get a punchy start that she wanted to. She could probably hold her own with this front 4, but as we could see from the line, that, as it always is in these RGT races, absolutely smashing it off the line, creating gaps here, there and everywhere as soon as they leave the pen, causing some of these riders just to drop off into no man's land. And currently Marisa's in no man's land. She's stuck between the front 4 and the chasing pack, which doesn't seem to be a pack. We've got a lot of individual riders running down there. We've got Tail Lang from the United Kingdom down in St. Carla Lang currently, but again, she's working hard. She's putting those red zone in up this little climb, so she's certainly not taking it easy. She's certainly not cruising round this course today. And I would expect all of the girls to, if they're not going to be in this for the racing, and it's really difficult being in a race when there's no wheels to follow at all. You really have to dig deep. This really calls on your mental resilience to really turn this into a really hard sessional workout, to actually get a good bit of sweat going, get a good bit of cardiovascular fitness going, and keep yourself tucking over. Uga there representing Spain, I believe, in 8th place. Again, there's gaps forming all down the road. Boaz, Azini, Ling and Pulga all are riding solo. It would be interesting to see whether anybody attempts to close on the gap the rider ahead to try and team up, give themselves a bit more work. And we might see this maybe, if these gaps stay fairly static, we might see this a little bit later on in the race as riders get tired, whether we see some of those gaps closing down. But back to the front four. So this front four is sticking together yet again. Look, all four of them going into red numbers, going up this little dinky little punchy climb that we can see, this beautiful crybaby hill. Don't think any of these girls will be crying anyway at the moment, but we may well some tears as we come to the finishing line, depending on who crosses first, obviously. Davison, who does not currently fare in the top 5 races in the league, so it'd be interesting to see whether she can hold these front 3 girls who are obviously a very good caliber, and whether she can hold her own, and whether actually she might take these girls by surprise. We'll see whether we can find out where she is currently in the league. But as we can see, these girls are pushing the red zone up that first little bit of the hill, dropping down into this blue zone, which if you know anything about RGT racing or anything about virtual racing, one of the beauties about virtual racing is that we can see exactly how hard these racers are working. So in the top left hand corner there, we can see what they're actually doing through the pedals on the bike. We can tell what the power is, we can see what cadence they're spinning along at. And it looks like, I think the camera currently is on, she's grinding a bit. She's comfortably just ticking along at 53 revs per minute. So she's obviously got a lot of power, has Cade, because she's keeping her cadence low. She's using the power of her quads. Now, will she pay for this later in the race, as she's using a lot of power here to maintain these positions? She's not spinning away like Raikkonen and Davidson there. She's actually keeping her cadence low. Will that low cadence cost her when she needs to bring on this punchy power later on in the race? We don't know. We can also see in that top left hand corner the heart rate of the riders. Now, everyone's heart rate will be individual depending on the level of fitness, their age, and if they have any other health conditions, but most of these riders will be absolutely at the tip top of fitness and as fit as a butcher's dog. But because of that, we can actually see how hard these girls are working. So as I was saying, underneath the names of the riders, we have a coloured bar. Now this coloured bar gives us an idea about how hard the rider is working. If it's up into the red, that means one thing, that just means pain. And we can see that these girls are actually already lapping Polga there. Now, Polga won't be able to sit in their draft, because when you get lapped in RGT, your draft decreases, and therefore it's much harder to hold that front group, which is really good. It means that those riders cannot just tag onto the back and have a couple of laps to close down riders in front. When it's in red there, we can see that this is really when they're up into this really high intensity power. Orange and yellow is where they're near the threshold, green is where they're ticking along in a nice tempo, and blue is when they're getting some recovery. So we'll start to see these colours just starting to change as they start to get a little bit recovery. And we can see there Eve Marie down into the blue, and Davidson down into the blue as well, getting a little bit of recovery off that little punchy hill down this little section, making sure that they get a little bit of gap. Now it'll be interesting to see whether anybody decides to attack on a different part of the course. So this is a slightly less aggressive part of the hill, not quite as punchy as the first bit, but still a place where we might see some attacks in some of the bigger packs later on. These forward girls are comfortably ahead of the rest of the riders. There's Marisa Boas, still currently riding in 5th place, and she's managing to pull away from Zani in 6th place. She's now got a 700-meter advantage over her racer behind her, and she also is going to lap Polga from the Community League. Now with the ladies, this is an open league, so we will see riders in this league from all categories of racing. And depending on whether you do your racing outdoors and you know the actual elite categories of racing, or whether you do your racing indoors via RGT or via Swift, you will see all category races in the Women's Open Series. It'd be great if we could see some more ladies get involved in the series to make sure that we do have good representation across all 4 of the categories. Oh, I do apologise. I think you might have lost my sound for a little bit. I do apologise about that. Sorry that I am now back. Had a little bit of a technical error at my end. Back in action though. So obviously the microphone was rather fed up me talking about Eric Clapton and my claim to fame. It was obviously more than happy just letting the racing go on behind the scenes. So I do apologise for that small break in the audio there. But we are back in business. So back to these four ladies, as I was just saying before, they're certainly not taking it easy, they're certainly making things work. And there we have a couple of, could that be a rogue rider we have in there, just coming along for the crack, just getting some camera time while he's there. There's Kato Ouellette, she's actually making a break off the front with Ronkainen as well, chasing her down. Is this the first real break that we're seeing of the race today? Or is this just a little tester that we're seeing from Kate, just seeing if the other girls can respond? And we can see that spread them all out. So these four girls have spread out. Is anybody going to work it back onto Kate's wheel? Ronkainen, I would have expected her to make it back. Davison, she's certainly riding strong there today, but Eva Marie Dora, there's a bit of a gap there. She's really going to have to work hard to close down these 30 odd meters or so to get back on track with these three, because if these three get working together and start pulling away, that's going to really make Eva Marie have to work exceptionally hard to close that gap and pull back on again. Eva Marie into the red. She's going to have to stay in that red zone for a little bit longer yet before she gets back into the draft and can have a little bit of recovery. Will she burn out before she gets there? We can see that her power's starting to drop. That gap's starting to grow now, 30 meters, and it is continuing to grow. So has Eva Marie just dropped off the back? So currently in 5th place. Whether that will be in doubt or not, I don't know. So Eva Marie, that would be devastating for her, because working so hard to hold on to a pack and then dropping off the back is absolutely demoralising. But looking at her power up, but she's certainly not given up yet. She's still cranking away at 3 and a bit watts per kilogram, which is certainly no mean features in the green zone, but we really need to see her going into the red. Marissa Bowes, it's a shame that looks like she's come to a stop. She's obviously had a virtual puncture. Unfortunately, that's the end of her race by the looks of things, as she was sitting quite comfortably in 5th place as well, with a big gap to Zani, Lang and Poga, who will obviously close her down and take those top few places. So Anna Ronkainen, I can't get that right. Ronkainen, sorry, I do apologise, Anna. Taking it forward as she did in the previous gap. Is she going to do the same this lap? And Eva Marie's actually working very hard, and it looks like Eva Marie might actually get back on track with these girls. She's closing that gap down. She needs to work really hard at this hill. She cannot let these three ride away from her on this hill. If she does so, I think she'll really struggle to get back on. And Eva Marie currently just not able to put out those red figures to close that gap down. So maybe she's really worked hard at those first few laps, and her legs just don't have it in them today to be able to maintain and produce that power to punch up that climb. And this is where we can see that the variation in courses is absolutely brilliant for this kind of racing, and it really does highlight the difference that we have between the riders who are punchy and sprinty and just full of type 2 twitch fibers and just bursting to explode, and the riders who are quite happy tipping along at several watts per kilogram, just being able to sustain that power for hours on end, the real engines of the team. And this kind of course really favours those riders who are punchy, powerful, and who've got quads the size of Chris Hoy. Now the front group down to 3 riders. Davidson from Scotland holding her own there with Ouellette and Ronkainen, both in the top 5. Interesting to see if we see any more attacks. Is Ronkainen going to put some more attacks in that first bit? So we've now broken that front group down to 3 riders, and we're not even halfway yet. So will we see Ronkainen continue to attack? Will we see Ouellette start to try and attack as well, to try and close that gap down? She's currently only 43 points behind Anna, so there's definitely all to play for second position in this race. Either one of these can take that second place position and closing the gap down to Jackie Godby, who is currently leading both the community and the Pro Series. underneath the banner yet again. Round and round and round they go. But what you actually find is with these races, even though you know what's coming up, it just does not feel like you're just doing laps on laps on laps on laps. You're so busy focusing on what rider is ahead of you, where you are on the road, deciding where you're going to make your attacks and how you're going to strategize your race. Purga still working away, even though she's already been lapped, she's still continuing to put the effort in, and I'm fairly sure that we will see Purga completely finish the race. But has she started to grind? Oh, don't do that, Purga. Keep working, come on, get in that red zone, keep going. Don't let it go. Yeah, that's the girl, keep it going. That's the spirit. Good to see Purga back in the red zone. So even though, you know, she's certainly not kind of going to be in the front runner, she's working hard. She's certainly putting herself through the paces. So if nothing else, this is going to be a great workout for her. And if she continues to work this hard in these races, that's only going to make her progressively stronger. She's going to be able to hold on to this front group a little bit longer. I certainly work her way through some of the other race series that are on the RGT platform. So this is the community series from the Echelon Racing series. This is stage 6 over in Tulsa, up the hill. You can just visualize all the locals on the hill there in the costumes, maybe having a couple of scoops of beer, very possibly, in the beautiful Tulsan summer sun, cheering on these riders as they go around the Crybaby Hill. Davison now starting to make a little bit of a break, but in the blue, that was just a kind of following the draft, pushing her through in front of these two ladies. Not really a concerted attack, and I think it would be interesting to see if they manage to hold on. So we can see the girls there going into the super tuck position. This is as they start to go down the hill. If they go to that super tuck position, gives them that little bit of extra aerodynamic platform to be able to still carve through that wind before they actually have to hit the brakes, before the really sharp right-hander, before they come along this finishing straight as they cross again underneath the arch for yet another lap. 12 kilometers in, 21 kilometers go, over a third of the way through this race, continuing to work hard. Certainly nobody's dropped off the power so far in this front group, which is really good to see. So let's see what these girls are going to do up this hill this time. See another attack. Are we going to see them taking turns with these attacks? All in the red again. Yep, looks like Anna Ronkainen again leading the way. But she's been matched really well by Kate Ouellette and Davidson from Scotland. They are holding their own. They're managing to hold their position exceptionally well. So none of these three riders is riding away yet. But as we saw before, it can happen very easily. Go to sleep for just a couple of seconds gap as you just lose your concentration. You lose that draft, and then before you know it, you've dropped off the back of the pack and your race is then your own. It was a good effort by Eve Marie to get back on track with these front.
Actually putting that one lap back forward there too. Slightly drop off the hill and get back to the second. You really nice and working hard.
Down in 4th place. Still continuing to work in that orange zone and the yellow zone, so she's certainly not taking it easy, but I think she knows that for her to catch this front 3 pack is going to be exceptionally difficult for her. I think she really wants to stay away from Lang in 5th place. I can't see that being a problem, but she has to stay alert. She can't just tick around in a nice, easy, relaxing pace, enjoying the scenery and taking it all in for the next 20 kilometers. She does have to work hard, because that 1.62 kilometers can slowly come back down if she doesn't watch what she's doing, particularly because Lang in 5th place there currently thumping out red numbers as she climbs Crybaby Hill. But Eve Marie's not going to be finishing in the top 3 today. That'd be interesting to see whether that keeps her in the top 5 of the series presently. Look at this three, like a forming an echelon themselves. Those three, like a beautifully crafted, like a beautifully coordinated air display team. Go back with dual cameras. We can see the front three girls there again punching up that crybaby hill. Eva Dora just crossing the line. The gap's currently at around about 260 meters. Anything over 250 meters here will be very, very difficult to close down as an individual rider, unless our front group do certainly take the foot off the gas, but I really can't see that happening at all anytime soon. So I don't think that's going to be an issue at all for these ladies, to see Ebury working it way back. Interesting to see that the front three ladies have all got red jerseys on today. Different teams though, but they've all got red jerseys, which is interesting to see. Maybe it's the red's the call of the day. Maybe they all had a bit of a chat before they came on. I'm sure, like myself and my wife, you know, I'm sure that conversation is, what are you wearing tonight? Are you wearing that? You got that nice suit on, and you got that nice pink tie, or are you wearing the sparkly bag? There's Kate Ouellette and Anna Davison, both from the same team, so this is interesting. So Kate and Davison from the same team. This may well play into their favour as they work together to try and break down Anna Ronkainen. Will they be able to work it together? Will they be able to break it down? Are they going to take turns trying to attack and trying to break down the finish? Or are they going to let Anna do all of the work and take the glory right at the end? Yet again punching up that hill, yet again recovering with this blue zone, yet again staying together as a comfortable pack of three, knowing that this is really a race for podium positions. I don't think any of these are going to be threatened with either the gold, silver or the bronze. It just depends on what medal they want to hold in their hand and what colour they prefer the taste of, whether it's gold, silver or bronze around their neck. A bit easier across the line there. There's no need for them to work quite so hard at this stage. This could be that little typical second album. You know, they've had that first album, that first third of the race where they certainly went all out to impress. This is obviously the difficult second album, the second section, where they can just start easing off a little bit, easing into the race, getting into a rhythm, trying to save some energy if they can for that final third of the race, which will no doubt be much more aggressively competed for the rest of the race. Front three again, comfortably over there, and we just see that they're lapping some of the racers. Polga there being lapped again, but continuing to work in the yellow zone, even though she knows that these girls are smashing it past her up into the red zone. Lang still currently lying in 5th place. Fortunately, after Boaz, looks like she had a technical and she's unfortunately still on the side of the road trying to fix her puncture, but it looks like her race is probably over. But she will, you know, if she can get her steed back and running again, it's certainly going to be good for her, because with being 8th in this series will give her a good number of points and that will move her up the table. So there's certainly plenty of time for her to get herself back onto her bike, get herself going again. Oh no, what's happening to Ouellette? Oh, it looks like she's had a dropout. So it looks like Kate has also had a virtual puncture as well. That's 2 of the girls that we can see have had technical problems in this race, and the front 2 kind of are going to capitalise on that, I think. So Ronkainen breaking away, making the most of this. Davidson obviously just holding back a little bit to see whether a teammate gets going again, but it does look like Kate is absolutely dead in the water, sadly. So I can just imagine her seeing her in a pain cave there, swearing at anything that's within verbal distance, waving her hands in the air, wiping the sweat from her brow, and being extremely frustrated at having to just sit there, nothing happening on screen, trying her hardest at home and desperately trying to get things back reconnected again, because she's currently still sitting in a position where she can score good points and she can still close that gap down. to Jackie Godby in first place, so she will desperately be wanting to try and get things back up and running again. But will this be a terminal failure? We'll keep an eye on Kate's numbers to see whether they change over the next few minutes. Yeah, well, yeah, great. Kate's back up and running again now. This is going to be a great chase for Kate. How is she going to play this? So currently she's got 491 meters to get back on Eve Marie Dora, and we could see Eve Marie Dora was certainly struggling on that chase lap to be able to stay in that power up that first little climb, whereas Kate's managed to punch it up that climb every time. Is she going to be able to close down this 450 meters to the third place rider to actually be able to get herself back in contention for that podium position? What do you guys think? Personally, I think she's got a great chance of doing this. She's certainly shown plenty of ability to be able to get back in contention with Eve Marie Dora, who's currently sitting in the bronze medal position. So even though it's a small race, we've got plenty of action going already. So we're nearly halfway around this very, very tight, small, very short crit series, but crit circuit, but certainly not easy at all. And as we found that the start made such a difference to the size of the chasing pack, we've had a great attack causing Eve Marie to drop off the pack there. But as we always say in these races, you've just got to keep going, because you never know what's going to happen. Anything can go wrong with any of these riders. Just like in real life, you can fall off, you can have a puncture, anything at all. You can get distracted by the sound of the whip and Wister Whippy ice cream van down the street next door. But it's always worth keep going, and Eve Marie's shown that by now sitting in third place, with Kate Ouellette trying to chase her down. That gap is coming down. So currently 350 meters from Eve Marie, who has got about 390 meters gap onto the front two. Now, what would be interesting to know is whether this front two are going to take it easy to see whether Kate Ouellette can get back in again. Will Davidson try and slow things down? I'm calling her Anna. I don't even know if she's Anna. I just think that she just sounds like an Anna. Anna sounds like a good Scottish name, but I'll find out whether it is Anna or not in a very short space of time. So Kate is currently chasing down Eva Marie. Will she make it, or will she not make it? What's your bets on? Do you think she's going to do it, or do you think that the rest of the three girls are going to ride away into the sunset, into the beautiful Tulsa sunset, with the crowd cheering them on to take on the top two positions, with Eva Marie in third place? So Kate's having to work really hard up these climbs. She's going to have to really start getting into that TT mode. Now that's difficult on these courses, so she'll really want to try and get into a good rhythm where she can sustain a good power and be able to just gradually chip in to the current gap that she has to Eve Marie Dora. But because this is not a flat course, and you can see from that course profile on the top right of your screen, and you can also see from the actual hill profile in the bottom of the screen, that this is not an easy course to get into a nice easy pedaling rhythm. It's got plenty of ups and downs, and that means getting into a nice consistent rhythm, a nice consistent power, very difficult. So you can't really just chip at that gap over a second by second basis. You have to reevaluate after every small section of the ride to see whether you're closing the gap down. Currently, the gap from the front two to Eve Marie Dora is currently 350 meters, and then it's about 260 meters to Kate in fourth place. Front two now are definitely not putting in big efforts, but they're doing enough to keep the gap. That's all they need to do. All they need to do is to keep that gap up above 300 meters to be able to hold off Eve Marie Dora, to be able to take this win. Kate Ouellette currently punching up that little punchy climb there to the top of the crest, and the crest is around about 212 meters above sea level. They start at around about 194 meters above sea level too, so there's only about 20 meters of climbing, but as you can see from the profile of the course, it's over a very punchy short distance, which is why we can see the hill profile going up into the red in the first climb, up into the orange in the second climb as well, as these riders have to work really hard to get up that climb and be able to maintain that power over the top to be able to carry the speed into a little bit of recovery as they come downhill, which we can see Kate doing there now on the right hand screen. So this, as we can see on the screen, is the race for third place. Eva Marie Dora, who had dropped off the front group at around about lap 5 or 6 as Anna Ronkainen attacked. Currently was sitting in 4th place, but we saw Kate Ouellette have a technical failure, and she dropped off into 4th place, letting Eva Marie come into 3rd place, and leaving these front 2 girls battling it out between the 2 of them to take the 1st and 2nd position. Anna Ronkainen will really want this, so I think the appetite for Anna to take this will be really strong today. I do not think that she's going to let Davidson ride away at any point in time. She'll probably mark her for as long as she possibly can. It doesn't really make any sense for Anna to smash it up these climbs and try and attack too early on. She may as well sit, just get her energy, just recover, just conserve as much energy as she can around these rides, around these laps, to try and catch Davidson out in the last bit. But if she takes that risk, if Davidson slows this race down to allow her teammate Ouellette to get back on track, we might actually see that happen. I'm assuming the teammates, because they're wearing the same jersey, that doesn't always ring true, because there's a variation of jerseys that are available in RGT. And there's Lang in 5th place, currently about 2 kilometers behind the fourth place position. That's around about a lap, followed by Zany and Pulga, who is about a lap behind her as well. Not a lap, maybe about a lap and a half potentially. But always working hard. Zany from Italy, Zany probably from Italy, working hard. Currently just punching up that little climb. As you can see, the difference between the front riders and the riders a bit further back. So we can see those front riders really consistently hitting the red and sustaining the red and maintaining the red all the way up the climb. And we can see these riders who are not quite as strong, just not able to sustain that red zone for the whole of the climb. They do hit it eventually, but what we'll often find is that fatigue will kick in before they get to the crest of the climb, and that is why we see these gaps forming as these riders come up these little punchy climbs and head over the top. Oh, Boaz, she's still sitting there, but whether she's still on the bike, whether she's gone off to watch an episode of Coronation Street on catch up, with that being a favourite UK soap opera, or whether she's still desperately trying to get things back up and going, because even in 8th place, even if she continues to tick round, she's still got a chance of reining in some good points. Ronkainen and Davidson continuing to smash it around the front there, still going into the red zone of this little punchy climb. They're still certainly working hard. Neither of them seem to be taking it easy. A 14.7% slope, that really does sting in the legs. This is where you actually get that energy absolutely sapping. These little punchy climbs is where we can see the energy absolutely sap from the legs. It's far more energy sapping than those races where the power has been relatively high but sustained. Those rides favour those engine type riders, these favour the power type riders, but because the power based riders, their muscles fatigue very, very quickly. So you'll get that absolutely, and I'm sure you've all felt it before if you've done any form of exercise, that real painful burn in the muscles as you start to kind of burn off that lactate that develops before you desperately want a little bit of recovery to allow the muscles to recover, which we can see these girls are doing now. Second little half of this climb, not quite so powerful up into the orange zone, but enough just to maintain the speed. And I think this might be where we see one of the attacks. I think we're all expecting the attack to be in the first climb, but it may well be that it's this second, slightly less steep climb that we see some attacks in the Pro League in 2 weeks' time, and maybe in the men's race that we have following this. So currently, Anne Ronkainen is sitting 2nd place in the women's open race, second to Jackie Godby. Kate Ouellette, who's in 3rd place at the moment in the series, is currently 4th on the road. Gabrielle Sherman, no signs of Gabrielle today, so Gabrielle will undoubtedly be slipping down the rankings today. And Eva Marie Dora, who's currently sitting in 5th in the series, is currently sitting 3rd on the road there today, but is trying to hold off Ouellette, who had a technical failure and is trying to chase her down. These two sticking together like 2 peas in a pod or 2 red peppers on the stalk, depending on your vegetable of choice. Dora there, she will be looking in her rear view mirror all of the time. She knows that Roulette was stronger than her in the first few laps. She knows that she's got that additional power. She knows that she's got 500 meters of fresh air in front of her before she hits the front 2. So it may well be that Eve Marie is going to continue to try and keep that gap there. She probably will try to look at that gap in front of her. If she's got any wisdom about it, she will look at that gap in front of her, try and maintain that gap rather than looking at the gap behind and trying to close down that gap. Always look forward, Eve Marie. Look what's in front of you. Don't look back in anger. Coming up to the end of yet another lap, 21.3 kilometers down. So we're almost 2/3. Eve's almost 2/3 of the way through this race. So second difficult album is almost finished. She's now coming up to the third album, which is always that funny one, isn't it? The third album. You never really see very good from many. I can't think of any real artists who've had a third album that's been the best album. Maybe some artists in the 60s, 70s maybe, but certainly not nowadays. Many artists don't even get to a third album. No. But we know that Coldplay next year, they've decided to hang their hat up next year. They're always good for bands to kind of announce their retirement, a good time. Just make sure they get the pension pot topped up before they finally retire. Get their feet up, torn slippers on, get the pipe out, and watch some of the fantastic racing that we can see on RGT through ZMS Broadcasting. So Anna Davidson now. So it looks like Davidson has made a bit of a break. She's got a 49-meter gap now on Ron Kynan. So is Ron Kynan going to let that go? Is she going to let her possible grip on a really strong challenge to Jackie Godby go? Or is she going to put in a bit of effort to try and close this gap down, to try and get back onto the wheel of Davidson? Gap is coming down a little bit, but will we see what we did last time with Eve Marie Dora? So crossing that line again, Eve Marie Dora managed to get that gap down to about 30 meters, but as we're going to see now, as they hit that really steep climb, will Davidson be able to put in the power to maintain it, or will Ron Kynan, who we've seen has got the power to be able to really pull up this hill, will she use that real power to pull her back in contention with Davidson? And we can see the difference in the figures there. We've got, as we can see, Ron Kynan, is she going to make a counter attack and come over the top? No, she's just going to sit on there, let Davidson do the work. Good closing down there by Ron Kynan, but will that have taken something out of her? Will Davidson attacks again? Will that cause Ron Kynan to actually drop off the back of her? I'll see very, very soon. So let me tell you a little bit more about the Echelon Community Racing League. So the Echelon Community Racing League is in partner with the Pro Racing League, and as I was saying to you before, that runs 2 weeks following the community, 1 week following the community races. And this, as I was saying, allows for these top riders to have the opportunity to ride with some of the pros in the Pro League, and gives them a chance to recover. And we can see both in the men's and ladies. So in the ladies series, we've got Jackie Godby, who's not here today, racing in the Pro and currently leading the Pro series. We've also have Gabriella Sherman racing in the Pro League, and again, she's not here this week. So is she saving her legs for the Pro League next week? But saying that, will they be invited with not being in the top 10? Have they also cost themselves a position in the Pro Racing next week by not representing themselves in the Community League? And will we see Ron Kynan and Davidson representing the ladies next time in Tulsa? So we have both Community and Pro Leagues, and the Echelon Racing Series also has a Pro Racing team with its own roster. Now, Echelon Racing is a division of the Project Echelon non-profit project. 22% of all profits of these series and these events go to support the Project Echelon mission. And the Project Echelon's mission is essentially to educate, equip and empower US veterans and their communities through physical activity and self-discovery, and they do this mainly through active cycling, and this is why they have their own cycling team. So they train, compete, and be part of the larger cycling community, which we all know can be a very, very inclusive and very powerful community to send messages around the world, and also to raise really valuable funds for very worthwhile causes, Project Echelon being one of many. Now we have 4 series in this community racing league. So we have the ladies who we are currently racing with now. We have the men, and in the men we have 2 divisions because of the numbers available. So we have a standing race and we have a B standing race as well. So essentially in the A races we have the category 1, 2 and 3 road races, or in Zwift categories A and B. And in the B races we have the elite races of 3, 4 and 5 of category, but also the C's and D's if you are a Zwift racer. The women's is an open category, as is the paracycling and the hand cycling, which we will also see coverage of today, and we can just see how beautiful the hand cycling bike looks, and just how it must be great for those riders and those racers who currently are either working on a modified bike or even working on a hand bike, being able to see a much more fair representation of who they are in real life by what they can see on screen. And very well done to RGT for replicating that in game. So these community series are there to try and encourage the community racers to get involved, to be able to follow what the Project Echelon's mission in, to spread their messages, and also provide a great racing platform for this. So each one of these leagues is an individual GC points-based series. What's great is that the pros race on exactly the same courses as the community racers do. So we will see these roads again next week, where we see the pro racers smashing it round as well. I'm fairly sure we'll see maybe slightly higher numbers next week, but that's just a guess. I'm sure it's not. I'm sure we're going to see some tremendous numbers, and I'm sure we're going to see lots of pain next week as well. So these roads, as you can with RGT, are formulated based on real roads in the real world. As we're saying, this is part of the just that tough series held in Oklahoma every year. And this is a real life course following the real profile of Crybaby Hill. And these are replicated in RGT by the use of the fantastic facility that they call Magic Road. So you can submit a clean GPX file to RGT and they will transform that into real roads in game. So what the racers are feeling here is actually what they will feel in real life. The only difference is that we don't have the same vista that we will do in real life, when currently RGT dynamically produces a kind of an artificially produced vista around that. Currently it's a countryside, but there is work in the pipeline to allow these magic roads to have different vistas depending on the kind of road that they are representing. And that would be great to see, if we can see some variations such as deserts and cityscapes as well on these real roads, to really try and get a true feel of where we are in the world. But we're currently in that lovely sunny center of Tulsa and Oklahoma, going around this small triangular crit punchy circuit with the 2 ladies at the front, Ron Kynan and Davidson continuing to smash it off the front there, with Pulga and Zani on the left working together now. Now it'll be interesting, Pulga's been lapped, and I think Pulga has been lapped by Zani as well. I think she's about a lap behind, but it'd be good to see if she can actually just hold a draft. And if these two work together, certainly makes that racing a little bit more challenging, certainly makes it a little bit more enjoyable if you've got another wheel beside you, whether you're riding with them or whether you're racing against them. It's always just adds to that little bit of enjoyment and just makes it a little bit more competitive, makes it a little bit more interactive, and makes you work that little bit harder to be able to try and maintain your position, hold that wheel or break away. And we'll no doubt see these little breaks between these two riders, between Zani and Pulga, but also with Ron Kynan and Davidson. Will these girls be able to maintain this gap that they've got to Dora? I'm fairly sure that they will. Eve Marie is currently around about 800 meters behind these girls now, but she is managing to sustain the gap to Kate Ouellette who is still approximately 200 meters. No, actually that seems to have closed down to about 100 meters now. So that gap is really slowly coming down. Our Team Lou jersey there for Kato Ouellette, one of the really big racing teams, or one of the big racing communities on RGT. Very, very popular, run a good number of community rides and also do some racing series too. Nice graded skin suit there, Team Lou, down to red and black. So that gap is currently at 166 meters. Now that's slowly come down from around about 300 meters to begin with. So I think Kate's roughly half this. So she's certainly pacing this change. She's certainly pacing this closing down. She's not really chasing in any great notch. She's being sensible. She's using her watts wisely and just closing this gap down little bit by little bit. But as we can see, as the hills come up, that gap goes up. As the hills go down, that gap will come down. But hopefully we'll actually see Kate closing it down, but she's running out of road, she's running out of time. We've only got 7 kilometers to go before the end of this race. So I think it'll be interesting to see whether she actually puts that really harsh dig in these last few laps to close down that gap to Emery in 3rd place, to take 3rd place on the road. What's your bet? Will she do it? Will she close down Emery in 3rd place and take that final podium position, or will Emery hold her off for the rest of this race? I can't call it. I really can't call it. I don't know whether it's going to be called like that or not. So back with Kato Ouellette, currently in the green, just crossing that line again, coming along the finishing straight, about to hit that really steep climb. But with Kate and the other girls in red as well. So we've got position 1 and 2 on the road and position 4, all in bright red jerseys, currently separated by Eve-Marie Dora from Germany in 3rd place. 2 front girls currently just under a kilometre ahead of the 3rd place, so they know that these got these front 2 positions quite easily sewn up. But it's this race for 3rd and 4th that's going to be the one that's going to be interesting to watch for the time being. These 2 front girls are going to be ticking it along, and I'm fairly sure that one of them will make an attack. Whether they'll make the attack on the last lap or whether they'll make the attack on the lap before that, I can't call that myself. I don't know when these girls are actually going to make this attack, but I'm fairly sure it won't be too long. But will Kate Ouellette close this gap down? She currently is. She is currently closing this down a wee bit. It's certainly coming down. And Davidson, I apologise, Davidson, it's Aileen. That's another great Scottish name. Aileen Davidson. So sorry, Aileen, I've called you Anna for 27.4 kilometres. I shall put that right now. So Aileen Davidson is currently sitting along the front with Anna Ronkainen. With Eve-Marie Dora is currently sitting in 3rd place, with Kate Ouellette closing that gap. Look at the difference in the power that we can see. Eve-Marie Dora 2.5 watts per kilogram. Kate Ouellette up to 3.9 watts per kilogram. There's a big differential there. So is this a real concerted effort by Kate Ouellette to close down Eve-Marie? Will Eve-Marie be able to respond and be able to maintain that gap? Because she knows that front 2 are well out of touching distance now. She's got no chance of closing those girls down, but she still has to work really hard to keep that 3rd place, to fight off Kate Ouellette, who is currently really trying to chase her down. Power levels around about the same now, 2.8, 3.4, not a great difference between the two. But what we will see is, let's just see what Eve-Marie starts punching up this climb. Will she be able to put out the same amount of power that we know that Kate Ouellette can do? And will that gap close down again like it did in the last lap? We see this finishing straight, that gap has closed down every single time. And I think last time it was around about 90 meters last time. So it's doubled out a little bit, but will it be able to close down again? So Eve-Marie currently in the yellow. Oh, she's not even hitting the red. Is that going to cost her time on the road? Is that going to cost her valuable meters, that she's just not able to hit that red zone? She's stuck in the orange. I'm sure that she's working as hard as she can to maintain that. And we can see Kate Roulette. Let's see what happens when she... Oh, they can see Kate Roulette in the background there. Look at that red bar. Absolutely full up to the top. 5.4 watts per kilogram she's pulling up there. Continuing to work in that red zone. Now that will really close this gap down. So look at the cadence. 38 revolutions per minute. That's proper grinding. That just shows how much power Kate has in those legs of her, being able to maintain such a low cadence. That's real true grinding going up that hill to really just absolute raw power that's pulling her up that hill there. Front two, back to the front two, Aileen Davidson and Aaron Kynan, both of them still just tete-a-tete, neither of them wanting to make that final blow, make that final attack to take this. We've only got 3.6 kilometers to go. Both of them are continuing to work with each other. Aileen, no heart rate at the moment. Looks like a cadence sensor also isn't working very well. So all we've got with Aileen at the moment is her power figures. Now that might be a problem for Aileen because all these races are validated. And that means that every single one of them has to prove that they can race fair. Part of that in some series is being able to demonstrate an accurate weight. One of the things that these platforms can't see is just they can't see your physical build. We don't know what these riders look like, so they have to rely entirely on what the racers tell the platform, and that includes the weight of the racer, and that has an impact on mainly when we come to these hills. So if you're a bigger chap or a bigger lady, you have to produce more power to be able to climb these hills. So weight is a really valuable metric that we need to be accurate in these races, and also the FTP, so how hard these races can actually work, and that gives us an idea on the power bars about how hard the racer is actually working. So Aileen, as we can see, didn't have a cadence sensor, but she also didn't have a heart rate monitor. That might cost her in positions. So she may be working really hard now, whether it's because Aileen doesn't wear a heart rate monitor or whether she's had a technical failure as well. But unless we can be able to validate that, that might well disqualify her from the results, and that might shuffle everybody up the pack. So back up to this little steep climb. Eva Marie Dora still not able to hit the red. Just look at this gap now. So last time we saw that gap at the bottom of the climb was 180 meters. Now look, it's down to 50 meters, and this is probably testament to the fact that Eva Marie is starting to really struggle to produce that really high punchy power. Kate Roulette also not wearing a heart rate monitor. Will this cost in the Echelon Racer League, or are these riders well validated to be able to get away with not wearing a heart rate monitor? Not quite sure the detailed rules of the Echelon Racing League, but I'm sure somebody will be able to put me right on that. But nonetheless, these girls certainly aren't taking it easy. These girls are pushing out some big figures, and Eva Marie Dora's managed to pull that gap out again. But at the bottom of that hill, it was only 50 meters that time. Will we see that gap closing down again as Anna Ronkainen just puts a little bit of air between her and Aileen Davidson, but Aileen back in the red. No doubt she'll be chasing back to get back onto Anna Ronkainen's wheel. We can see that gap closing down yet again. So we've got 2.2 kilometers to go. It's still all to play for. Certainly, there's absolutely no way that either of these girls are going to let this one go now. There's just no way that's going to happen. We are going to very easily see these girls continue to absolutely smash it round to get to the end in first position. But who is going to put that decisive attack in, and when is it going to happen? So looking at the league, currently we don't have Aileen in the league at the moment. So Aileen's a new name to the women's series. So this is a great debut performance from Aileen, managing to hold on to the current second place holder of Anna Ronkainen on the road. But as we can see, we've only really got her power metric to go by, so be interesting to see whether Aileen has been validated with the series. But if not, even so, it's still given Anna a good workout, and it's certainly given Aileen a good workout as well. So we've only got 1.5 kilometers to go for the end of this race. Come along that finishing straight. We can see on the top of the screen, the right hand screen, all those white dots represent all of the races on the road. These two still absolutely head to head, absolutely. They couldn't have been tighter, and they're crossing that line for the penultimate time So we are now into the last lap of this 6th stage of the Echelon Community Racing League on the Tulsa Tough. And we can see on the line, we can see the men currently lining up ready for their race. The paracycling guys there, the 4 of them there. We can also see the hand cycling team on the top right there waiting for this, and the men B as well. So we've got all of these races just sitting, biding their time, waiting for these ladies to finish their race, just waiting for that race to finish so they get their fair crack of the whip. And they're starting in about 1 minute's time, so there's going to be a little bit of overlap between these races, but it would be absolutely fantastic to watch the end of this race, because I would love to see which one of these girls makes this decisive attack with less than a kilometre to go. But also, will we see Kate Ouellette closing down Eve Marie Dora? Look at this, we've got 7 metres, 6 metres, 5 metres. She's actually going to close it down now. Is Kate Ouellette going to come right over the top and really turn the screw and really put Eve Marie under pressure? Or is she going to sit back, just sit in the draft, get a bit of recovery, and then attack? No, it doesn't look like she's going to sit back whatsoever. It looks like she's going to just absolutely put that knife in the back of Eve Marie Dora, who's worked really hard to maintain that 3rd position. It looks like Kate Ouellette has managed to get her 3rd place back on the road so far. But back to the front 2. We've got less than 600 metres to go. This is going to be a time where we've got Anna Ronkainen, who's currently 2nd in the series, with Aileen Davidson, who currently is not showing in the series, both putting in a fantastic race. And we can see from the other series, from the other events, that it's all started. We could see, I think it's the Blue Angels, the United States display team, with that beautiful smoke trail going over the top to mark the start of the event. But we're back with the ladies. So we've got 200 metres to go. Who's got the sprint? Anna Ronkainen's got the sprint. Aileen Davidson in and out of the blue, but looks like Anna's got the strength to be able to hold off. But no, Aileen Davidson's coming back. Has she got enough to be able? Is she be able to put enough power in? Has Anna Ronkainen got enough to be able to hold her off for that last few metres? She's kind of easing off. Anna's closing it down, but it looks like Anna Ronkainen has taken the 1st place with Aileen Davidson in 2nd. Let's just see what's happening on the road behind them. We've got Kate Ouellette currently in 3rd place with Eve Marie Dora only 36 metres behind us. So this is definitely not over yet by any stretch of imagination. So these girls are almost a lap behind the front of. So these girls have got a lap to go. But this is going to be a fascinating little battle between these two. So Kate Ouellette closed down about a 300-metre gap to Eve Marie Dora, who fell off the front group at lap 5. Kate Ouellette had an unfortunate technical failure really halfway through the race, had to work it back to Eve Marie Dora. She managed to close it down, come over the top, but she hasn't managed to ride away from her yet. Eve Marie still sitting there, only 36 metres behind. This is still an open race for the final podium position in this ladies open race on the Tulsa Tough in stage 6 of the Echelon Community Racing League. Who's your money? And I genuinely can't. I thought when Kate closed down that gap, I was fairly sure that she was going to come over the top and actually start smashing it away, but that does not seem to be the case whatsoever. So we can see the men there have already done their 1st lap, 1.39 kilometers in 2 meters. So this is a 2 minutes it's taken them to do that 1st lap. So this could be an exceptionally rapid race. As we can see there, Kate Ouellette 1 hour into this race, the boys have managed to do the 1st lap in 2 minutes. It just shows that real difference in power. And this is the kind of series, this is the kind of course that would really suit the men, just to having that raw power behind them, and this where we'll see the difference in time being probably greater as the men continue to smash up that little diddy climb. Kate Ouellette now, currently, she's managed to pull that gap out. So it was 38 metres. She's now managed to pull this out to 204 metres. She's got 250 metres to go to the finish. This has been a fantastic ride by Kate Ouellette after having that technical failure, to be able to close down Eve Marie Dora, who was sitting in the podium position in 3rd place, to be able to pull it back. She did it in a very wise way. She used her watts wisely. She gradually pulled it back step by step, and with 2 laps to go, pulled the trigger, close down Eva Marie Dora and crosses the line into 3rd place. Eva Marie, great performance. She was destined to go 4th after she was dropped from the front group, and I think, to be fair, that's a fair result for Eva Marie. Even so, it's still a good haul of points for Eva Marie, bringing her up in the series. Everyone making some space up on Jackie Godby, who didn't represent the ladies there today, but absolutely stonking race from the ladies there. Fantastic bit of riding from all of them, really competitive. And now we hop over to the men's A race, and this is where we are going to see a completely different kettle of fish with these guys. So first of all, we're going to see, so there we go, we've already done 2 laps and we're less than 4 minutes into this race. So this start of the race is going to be absolutely fast and furious. Bigger pack. What we're going to see with this bigger pack is we're going to see multiple attacks, as we see on RGT, on all of the races that we've seen through ZMS live broadcasting. We just see that it is just attack after attack after attack after attack after attack. There is absolutely no let up whatsoever in any of these races that we can see, which is fantastic. So we're riding currently with Usburn off the front, Volkovsky on the men B. And we can see some familiar names there in the B. So Hambrick, Marion Hambrick currently is leading the B race standings at the moment, but we have some new names, but none of these guys are certainly going to be taking it easy. They will all be putting some pressure on Marion for the top spot. Marion currently top of the B race standings with 727 points, followed by Brad Borders with 713, David Avid Broku with 707, Andrew Billing with 610, and Kerry Tyler with 373. So the top 3, Marion Hambrick, Borders and Broku, are currently all in the 700 points. We can certainly see that Hambrick is there at the moment. So, and Broku's there as well in those top 11 races. So the top of the table clash is going to be a strong one. The A races is the paracycling guys and girls. So currently Kilgore is leading that series. Paul is currently leaving the series. Berini is currently in 4th place. He's currently managed to pull out 170 meters gap on Kilgore, so it's certainly at the moment Kilgore's got a really quite a comfortable lead in the series, having raced in every single one of the series so far that I can see. He's pretty much won everything by the looks of things so far, but it'd be really good if Bereni can put a little bit of pressure onto him today. And Holmes in currently in 3rd place, third place on the road there. The 3 of them racing together. Be interesting to see how this fans out, whether this will be almost like an individual TT for all 3 of them. Last week we were in the Tour of the Gila last week, which was an individual TT. Draft was off, very much race your own race. So with only such a small field in the paracycling race, we may well see that these guys are all having to get into a comfortable pace, get into a rhythm and be able to TT this round. But as we can see, this is not a course that's built for TT riding. It's punchy, it's changing, it's up, it's down, it's in, it's out, it's round and round. It's a bit like doing the hokey cokey in 1.2 kilometers of triangular circuit racing. Holmes there currently. Let's just see whether these paracycling guys can hit that red zone. So I think it's always that little bit more difficult, but we can see they're just working just as hard up into the yellow, up into the red. These red figures, even though we're not seeing the figures quite as high as what they were with it, we'd still see that this is working into their pain zone. So this is a really good reflection of how hard these guys and girls actually do work. Despite their disabilities, they're working just as hard as what they would do as the able-bodied guys. They're putting out just as much effort. Yes, they can't provide the same amount of power, but the amount of workload that they're putting on the muscles, the amount of training stress that they're putting on their bodies is just the same. And there, as we mentioned before, is that really beautifully represented hand bike that RGT have very, very beautifully reproduced there. And we can see that we've got a really quite a good representation in the hand cycling. I currently don't have the hand cycling standings at the moment, I'm afraid, but I will try and get that in front of me very soon. But we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 races in the hand cycling category. And it'll be interesting to see how much power these guys producing. Oh, Kovalainen there is H3, so we can see after the names, that is the category of their disability. The majority of these paracycling athletes, some of these will be good enough to represent their country at both international and Olympic level, but it's always really good training on these platforms. One of the joys about the virtual platforms is, particularly now, is that they can do all of their training indoors, not have to go out into the wild outdoors, where it can be really difficult for some of these para athletes to be able to get into good facilities to be able to do adequate training, particularly if you're certainly in Britain, some of the British roads where you've got potholes all over the place, so you don't know what you're going to come across. Certainly whether it's the same in Finland, which Kovalainen I think is from. But as you may have heard from my previous broadcasts, my knowledge of international flags is rather dreadful. But yeah, Kovalainen, Finnish rider, currently just about leading the front of the pack from Koeman from the Netherlands. Only 12 metres between the two. But is that enough to be able to call it, or is Koeman going to close it down? And these guys will produce a draft, but as you can see, because of their front profile is much smaller than the upright riders, the draft that these riders will be getting from the rider in front will be probably minimal, to be fair. So because these are so streamlined, and that's deliberate, get these riders in this very streamlined position, so the effort that they have to produce to be able to bring the power on and bring the speed on is less, but that means that they're in a mechanical disadvantage. So currently head-to-head at the moment with Parker. He's got a fair distance behind him there, so this looks like it might be another head-to-head that we saw in the ladies' race as well. Kovalainen and Koeman from Finland and the Netherlands currently battling it out head-to-head with Parker in third place. As we can see with the riders in the able-bodied rider as well with the red, just look at that cadence. So we can see Parker there. Cadence was really down into the 50s, and this is very similar to the legs. This is when your cadence gets down that low, you really have to produce a lot of power with each stroke to be able to hold that speed. As we can see, Parker managed to change his cadence up to 103, which, although is a little bit more tiring for your cardiovascular system, it produces less muscular load, means that you will not fatigue as quickly. So we'll definitely see the burn in these guys, and most of these guys wear gloves to try and protect the hands. Obviously the hands don't have that same protection as the feet with shoes on, so they wear gloves to try and prevent blistering in the hands and also try to protect their skin, but that doesn't stop them from producing fantastic amounts of power. And I've actually cycled myself alongside a hand cyclist on my road bike, and it's just absolutely fantastic just watching how they position their body, being able to analyze. And when you see them in these cycling jerseys and the really tight jerseys, you can just see how much coordination there is of the upper body muscles and how good their core is. So even though they may be paralyzed from the waist down or have amputations, such as some of these Echelon guys who the Project Echelon support with the veterans will certainly have quite significant injuries of lower limb in the spine. A lot of these riders will use a hand cyclist and be paracycling athletes themselves. They often have unbelievably strong core and chest muscles. I certainly wouldn't want to be arm wrestling any one of these guys in any hurry, that's for sure. Costa from the United States, representing there in 5th place, 1.3 watts per kilogram at the moment, currently in the blue, so currently taking it easy, but he's coming up into this nice little steep section, which is a really little punchy bit, and he's just coming up that semi-steep section there, still continuing to hit on the blue. So Kusta's certainly taking it relatively easy today. Whether this is kind of a bit of an easier session for him, whether he just knows he needs to pace it round. But back on the, can see all 4 series there on screen at the same time. Just look at the difference there between the men on the men A and the men B. We've got a little small breakaway group in the men B there. We've got 4 riders in the front with one just dropping off the back there. We can see that front group on the men's A race is also whittled down a little bit, and I'm fairly sure that's because we will have seen attack after attack after attack. And let's follow the men's A race for a little bit. Let's just see who we've got in this front pack who's actually challenging for the lead. So this pack, as we saw a couple of laps ago, who was probably up to about 10, 12, 15 riders. Currently, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 riders in this front group. Matt Osborne, we know, is a very strong Canadian rider on RGT. And what's really interesting is none of these riders in the front 5 are currently sitting in the front 5 of the series. So the highest placed rider that we have at the moment on the road is Mike Lister, who's currently sitting at the top of the A race standings, and he is currently down in 8th place. So none of the other riders in this front 5 are actually currently in the top of the race standings. So will we see a change at the top? It's actually quite tight at the top. Mike Lister's on the top with 715 points. Mike Sward from Restart Racing currently in 2nd place, but there's a couple of Restart racers there, Dowd and Jaeger, both representing the Restart Racing. Jaden Jaeger there from the United States alongside his teammate Dowd. It'll be interesting that we've got 2 riders from the same team there at the moment. Be interested to see whether we see any team tactics kicking in like we may do. We've got Osborne and Warner also from the same team as well. So this could be a battle of 2 teams, the same. Hayden Warner there alongside Matt Osborne. Will we see these 2 teams trying to battle it out? With Rocker there sitting on his own there in his little stealth. Maybe he's just going to be like a little stealthy ninja there with his black kit on, although in this beautiful Tulsa sunshine that's going to stand out like a sore thumb. But he's looking very slick there. He's with his black kit, his black bike. And then back to Mike Lister, who's currently in 6th place on the road. But what will be interesting to see is whether these 3 actually decide to work it back, because that gap to the front group is not unsurmountable by any stretch of imagination. Currently at 200 meters. Good afternoon, Mike. Thank you very much. Come on, Mike. Let's see you get back in there. Ryan Miller, who's currently Rob Miller, sorry, who's currently sitting in 4th place in the series, getting lapped by the chasing pack. Will Rob be able to get back on track with these guys? Will be able to help their draft to get them back to chase the front group down? So Mike is going to have to put a good effort in here to try and chase this group down. Will the other guys, will Wellison and Shaik, work with him to be able to pull this gap back? Hill from the United States just dropping off that small group there, so it looks like Hill's going to have to try and pace himself away from Kucharski and Swart, who's in 11th place at the moment, chasing them down. Back to the front group in the A. Oh no, sorry, back in the 10th position. There's Kucharski and Swart. Swart there, Restart Racing. He's got 2 of his colleagues up the front there with Dowd and Hayden. Will he be able to close some of this gap down? But they've got a good 500-600 meters on the group ahead of them, so it looks like these guys are going to be racing as a 3. And there we can see on the Zoom call, we can see the variation in all of the different riders that we can see. We've got Austin, Jackie and Santa Kuman there, all on the hand bikes. Kuman there working really hard. Just look at that cadence there as he works along that. There's obviously looking at him. I'm assuming that these hand cyclists, we'll be riding with Coonan in the moment. Yes, we are. We can just see that Coonan's in that red zone, and we can just see that represented really beautifully on that video on the top right-hand corner there. Sanders certainly putting in some effort. Jackie Jones there looking relatively, still looks like he's got a bit of a lower cadence there, putting in a bit of power. Austin Parker there just about dropping off the screen. Austin, you need to get your camera right next time. Love your flag in the background. Looks like a beautiful sunny day where we are, but we want to see some more of that effort. Let's get those camera. Paul Gilgore there, looking very comfortable. Paul's actually currently leading the paracycling rider of the 24 riders, looking very comfortable. I'm loving all the medals in the background there, Paul, as well. We'll just have to see whether we can figure out see if we can find out what they are. So Paul is obviously a well-established and very successful paracycling athlete, and we can see that today with he's currently leading the paracycling league. He's got 1,525 points, taking the first place at the moment to second place, Mar Dennis Paranguao. back on the road with all of these riders. So men A, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 riders in the front group. Men B, that's all come back together again, hasn't it? So these front group in the men's B races come back together. It's split, then it's back, and it's split, then it's back. Back on with the B riders. So currently in the front of the B riders, we've got Wizorajek from Poland. As you can see, I do apologise for my international pronunciation, but he's certainly pacing it out the front there, chased by the 3 Americans of Bird, Rice and Nelson, with Baglovsky, who's dropped off that front group. He was really pushing the pace early on there, and Baglovsky's dropped off the group into 5th place. He's got a bit of a gap on Suhard from France in behind him, and Kapi as well from who's chasing him down, but he's dropped off the front group with Bird, Rice and Nelson taking it to the Polish Wizorek. Will we see the same as we saw in the ladies racing? Will we see these guys punching it up this little climb? Will we see some attacks coming up there? Or will we see maybe a little bit more sedate affair? So we're now currently in that, we're in that difficult second album again now. We just, you know, that first album, we've seen everybody trying to impress in that first third of the race. Everybody was smashing it around. We've seen these groups breaking up. We're now into this second, normally a more steady part of the race, where we'll start to see the groups start to settle things down a little bit, start to get themselves into a bit more of a rhythm, start to try and get themselves prepared, recover, get some energy. Some of them might be taking on some energy gels at this part of the race as well, around about this middle third somewhere, just to try and get a little bit more energy and preparing them for the onslaught, which will be the third and final bit of the race. And there on the right hand side we have the final positions for the women's race. So taken by Anna Ronkainen of Finland with the time of just over 1 hour. Just managed to hold off Aileen Davidson from Scotland into 2nd place with a great sprint finish. It was very much a head-to-head race between these two girls, as Kate Ouellette dropped off the front. Eve-Marie Dora, Kate Ouellette, managed to chase down Eve-Marie Dora in 4th place after her technical failure. Tapped it back, managed to get Eve-Marie with it a couple of laps to go, and then managed to pretty much power past her on the last lap to take the well-deserved 3rd place. Eve-Marie Dora, I think, can be happy with her work today in 4th place after a really good early performance. Just dropped off the front, and Lugazini in 5th place. So we can just see that they've put on the right hand side those watts per kilogram. So Anna Ronkainen, obviously one of the heavier riders, really powerful, 2.74 watts per kilogram. So that just gives us an idea of we could see the fact that she was in the red zone. She was putting out a lot of power. So she's actually one of those riders that's built for sprinting, that's built for power. And we can see a little bit further down Kate Ouellette, obviously one of the lighter riders, having to work that little bit harder because she's a little bit lighter, but also able to climb those hills a little bit easier. So top 5 positions there. So this is really going to change the league positions in the Women's League Series. Jackie Goppy still going to be holding on to that top spot, but only very just, as Anna Ronkainen takes 200 points to close that gap down, with Kate Ouellette and Eve-Marie Dora all moving up as well. Back to the men's A. So we've got this currently in this front 5. This front 5 is broken down into a 3 and a 2. Jaeger, O'Dow, Rocker, Warner, Usborn. Lister still in 6th place. He got a 470 metre gap before Lister, who's currently leading this league. Jaeger in 1st place there, followed by Dowd and Rocker, Warner. Jaeger taking it round. So we've seen these little attacks coming in some of the unusual places. So we're not just seeing the attacks in these little kicker hills, we're also seeing these little attacks happening all over the course, and that's a really good tactic to be taken on these courses. So everybody expects turn this corner, pass this tree, and then blammo, let's hit the red zone, let's get it together boys, let's start working. That's where everybody expects these attacks to happen. Everybody knows that everybody's going to go into this red zone up this little section. This is where we'll see mostly the attacks happening. So this is where the power guys will really try and turn the screw on the lighter guys, and we could see that with Anna Ronkainen in the ladies series. Obviously she had a huge amount of power. We could see some of the attacks that she put in the first few laps, and this is what the bigger, stronger guys will be trying to do, is trying to break down these riders who are a little bit better at the end, a little bit better at the endurance work, not quite so heavy, not quite so powerful in these races. to try and split them off. But that front pack's all together, the front five, the B's group as well, we can see they've managed to stick together as I think it's a front four there at the moment. And on the paracycling and the hand cycling, we're very much seeing these guys. So Kuhn, it looks like Kuhn's actually pulled out a little bit of gap from Kovalainen at the moment, but it's not a great gap. It's only 20 odd meters or so. Bereni is actually putting 2.64 kilometers on Kilgore. So this is almost 2 laps that Bereni's got on Kilgore. But currently he's sitting around about 1,300 points behind him. So Bereni's only managed to race one of the races so far, but he's taken a win. So we know that he can do it. And it looks like he's going to be powering away from Kilgore. But Kilgore is going to play the long game. Bereni is currently sitting 2.61 kilometers ahead of Paul Kilgore. But you've got plenty of time, and actually I think Bereni might be a lady, and I do apologise. It's one of the lady riders, so it's great to see a lady riding in the paracycling series. So she's only managed to ride one race at the moment, but she's currently sitting in 4th place. So will this second win help to move her up? She's got a little while to go yet. So Michael Brooks is in 3rd with 960 points. Dennis Parangau is currently in 2nd with 1,350 points, and there's Kilgore up ahead, so she's about to lap Kilgore again. Now, what'd be really interesting is if Paul actually gets carried away, tries to follow the wheel to Bereni and actually burn himself out. You don't think he's really in any great threat being caught by home, but you just don't know whether he pushes it too hard, too early, burns himself out, and then finds that he doesn't have any energy at all to be able to pull off the last half of the race. So these races ride a less distance race. We can see now Bereni's coming up to the final 130 meters of this race. She's really going to try and pass Kilgore for the last time as she crosses this race, or crosses the line for the win. It's 13.36 kilometers. Great win there from Bereni. That's going to move her up the standings. Kilgore still got a couple of laps to go. Yeah, still be tapping along, 2 laps to go. So great win there, Bereni. Really good racing to be able to pull on 2 laps in such a short space of time. That just shows how much power that lady has got, with Kilgore chasing down the 2nd place position, which I'm fairly comfortable that he will do. However, back to the men A, back men B as well. These guys are on the full length race. Paracycling guys currently in the bottom left there, they also have a reduced distance race as well. They have the same distance race as the hand cycling guys, mainly because of the speed. That nothing to do with the ability, nothing to do with the disability, but all to do with the length of the race. So because they're not pulling out quite as much power, you can see the differential in speed at the moment. So currently the men in the A are whacking out 44 kilometers per hour, and we can see the paracycling, we can see Kilgore there, and the bottom left hand corner climbing that hill in the red zone at 9.610 kilometers per hour. So that's speed differential. It'd be interesting to see as we see Jaeger there, who's currently leading the men's A race, coming up to this sharp right hand turn before we hit the punchy climb, just seeing what speed Jaeger climbs this at in comparison to Kilgore in the bottom left hand corner. Let's just look at that speed differential. So there's Jaeger crashing up that climb at 22 kilometers per hour, which is almost double the speed that Kilgore managed to pull. Now if we think that this is a 50 minute to 1 hour race for Paul in his paracycling rig there, that's double the time for him to be able to race. Now that's not to say that they can't do it, but if these guys are racing in multiple series, if they're doing this as part of their training, this will, a full 2 hour racing is a really good hard session. And if they're racing at this level, and they certainly will be racing at the same amount of effort that the guys are racing in the A's, B's and the hand cycling, they'll all be working at the same effort, just at different speeds. This is going to produce a huge training load on all of these guys. There's Koeman there on the right hand side, really working hard, and in the bottom right hand side there we can see that great jersey from the Echelon. I think that just looked like an Echelon jersey there that Rice is wearing. I'm fairly sure it is an Echelon jersey. And there's Douglas Hackett in the middle right there. Looks like he might be in his living room there. Douglas, I wonder if he's got permission of his wife to be there. Justin Rice there, definitely in his dining room. Absolutely, Jackie Jones got it very wisely in his garage. It looks like Austin and Jackie Jones are in the same looks like they're in the same garage, or they've certainly got the same garage door. Obviously got a job lot there, Austin and Jackie, job lot and garage doors. Paul Kilgore still working hard there, currently chasing down second place in the paracycling race today, even though he's currently comfortably leading that series at the moment. Justin Rice currently working hard there in his Echelon jersey. And if I can remember rightly, I think Justin Rice is actually part of the Echelon Racing roster. I'll just check on that as well while we're watching the rest of this series. So back with the men B. So we've got this front group of 4 riders at the moment. We've got Rice, Bird, Nelson, Wujurek, and we're currently lapping rider at the moment. Oh, we're currently riding with the B riders as well. There's Hambrick, who is currently leading the B race standings. Currently racing with the A group. Now that's interesting, because Marion's currently winning the B race standings. Currently sitting in 11th place there on the road there with the A guy. So is Marion just trying to cheekily get a little bit draft off these front guys in the B series? Sorry, we are following the B series. Is he trying to get a cheeky little draft there, trying to hold on to this front pack to try and pull out a little bit of air between the rest of the chasers? Comes from that Marion, or is he just kind of riding this for pride, knowing that he's currently heading the standings for the B category races at the moment and seeing himself being lapped by this front group of Bird, Nelson, Wujurek and Rice. The boys smashing it up that 6.5% slope, up to 5-6 watts per kilogram, which is what we'd expect to see from these chaps. Just trying to break it down a little bit, and this is where those gaps can occur. Koeman there coming up with 700 meters to go, currently with a 130 meter gap over Kovalainen. So this would be an interesting finish. So Koeman there currently pulling in the red zone, still managing to work really hard. So coming up to his last climb, Kovalainen there just lapping Coaster there in 5th place. Kovalainen's got about 68 meters. So this race is not over yet. So what can Koeman hold off Kovalainen, or will Kovalainen do what Kit did earlier on? Kit Ouellet did that earlier on to Eve-Marie Dora. Kovalainen there, he's up in the red zone. He can smell Koeman. He can smell him in a distance. Koeman's having to kind of really look. It's difficult with these guys because they just can't look behind. I think some of them do have a very cheeky little rear mirror that they can see, but they can just hear the thundering of the 3 wheels coming behind them, which you can't get on these virtual platforms. Koeman has only now got 190 meters to go. I think he's got a safe enough, big enough gap to be able to hold off Kovalainen, to be able to take this win, although it's going to be a really tight finish again. So Koeman just about to cross that line. He's only got 50 meters to go before he takes a win. Currently finishing with the flourish. He's just easing off the power there now. We know he's got this. Koeman takes the hand cycling win at 13.41 kilometers, with Kovalainen, who really took the pace very, very early on in this race, coming in with a very, very impressive 2nd place. Parker, Jones and Kuster all a few laps behind, so we'll check in those later on there. And we can see Paul Kilgore has just finished the paracycling in 2nd place there. So great ride by Paul Kilgore, actually up in the red zone there towards the end there. Good finish. We'd expect that from a medal win that we could see in his background as well. So Kilgore undoubtedly holding on to his currently leading position in the paracycling race. And there we can see Paul just chilling himself out there, just cooling himself down now. Koeman there dusting himself down. He's obviously had a great race, getting rid of that sweat. We could see how hard Sander was working through that race, having a bit of a cool down. Is he going to crack open his water, get himself cool down? He's going to just clamber off his bike straight away and get himself into a position. It wouldn't be surprising if some of these guys had developed a little bit of cramp. And there's Paul there just checking in there. Hopefully Paul can hear us. Great race there by Paul, coming in 2nd place, managing to hold on to his top spot in the paracycling league. Back onto all 4 of the races, so we can see the men A there. Currently 4 races in that front group. That men B, we've currently got 5 races in that front group, back with the men A. So we've got those 2 Restart Racing riders in the front there. We've got Usborne from, I can't picture what that jersey is, but we've still got Rocco the Ninja in his black jersey. The Warner, we saw Warner's obviously dropped out that front group, who was partnering alongside Usborne. So we've got 2 Restart Racing, Mike Swart's team there. They're currently leading the front there, from Usborne taking it on in the front as well. So these 2, it's starting to see a few little gaps here developing as they cross this hill, and this is where these gaps will form. So unless these guys really pay attention, it's very, very easy to get a gap forming in front of you or behind you, and to lose that draft. You just can't afford to do this in RGT. Lose that draft, lose that wheel, and you very quickly find that the gap becomes unmanageable, particularly if you have to burn a few matches just to kind of to hold on at these little kickers. You really need to push over the top of that hill, push on until you get that draft, and then cut back in. There's Rob Miller, who is currently sitting in 4th place in the A race, being lapped by these front guys. But Rob will be again scoring points. So none of these front guys here are currently really pushing for the win at the moment in the series anyway, but certainly pushing for the win there today. Usborne definitely taking it to the rest of them with regards to his efforts today, and he's certainly working hard there on the front of that front group with O'Dowd as well. So back onto the Zoom screens, Koolman having a well-deserved little recovery there, just revisiting his race, obviously just kind of just picturing that race there, just picturing how well he'd done. It was a really good win there by Sander to take it from Kovalainen after Kovalainen's early work. Certainly well-deserved win there, just chilling out there, just getting himself cooled down, a nice passive cool down there. Paul Kilgore actively cooling down, checking his messages, and Sanders kind of waved goodbye to us. Thanks very much, Sander. Paul Kilgore just checking his messages there, just making sure that his mum's got the shopping in, seeing whether she needs any beans or any Twixes taken in for tomorrow. Just checking if she's having a roast tomorrow, and just checking out how he's getting on, whether he's making plans for Saturday night. What plans have you got tonight, Paul, after that fantastic 2nd place in the league today? We still see Justin Rice working hard there. Justin Rice is working hard on that, the B category. Douglas Hackleton, I'm just looking for where Douglas is. I'm not sure whether Douglas is racing in the A's or the B's. I'll try and track him down and let you know. And Jackie Jones and Austin Parker, we can obviously quite clearly see where they're racing, and they are still racing hard at the moment. So hand cycling, there's Parker there on the road, currently sitting in 3rd place after Koolman and Kovalainen have finished. So Parker's got just over 1 kilometre to go. This is his final ascent to this really steep bit. So this is where his arms will be absolutely burning like hell. He'll be really putting this little bit of effort in. He really wants to put a good effort over this last hill on the bottom right hand corner there, get himself into a position where he can comfortably stay away from Holmes. I think he's about a lap up from Jones at the moment, so he certainly got this 3rd position very clearly fixed. So paracycling final results, we got Joe Bereni with a fantastic ride, who rode away from Paul Kilgore. Joe put in a great performance, managed to lap, I think, Paul maybe about 3 laps time. So Joe currently, I think, female paracyclist, riding currently in 4th place after a win. That's her 2nd win on the round, on the stages in the series. And Paul Kilgore currently has been scoring consistently high throughout the series and just cementing his position at the top of the paracycling league. And we saw Paul there cooling down there, looking very comfortable. This was obviously quite a comfortable race for him, but we can see the watts per kilogram. So these guys and girls certainly don't take it easy. It's certainly not an easy. We didn't see, that much higher watts per kilogram in some of the some of the community women, and we'll probably see something very similar in the community men as well. So we just know that these guys and girls are working just as hard as the able-bodied riders are working, but because their speed is lower, the distance of the race is smaller as well, to make sure that the racing time is fairly equitable. between them. Joe Barini working 24 minutes at that level. So back with the streams, there's Parker back in third position, 700 meters to go, about halfway through this last lap. Comfortably got a 1.3 kilometer gap on Jones there. We can see them both on the Zoom call. Looks like Parker's going to lap Jones for this last lap to be able to get it, or is he going to do the gentlemanly thing, just drop behind, let him finish off. This is the second little climb on this double climb race. Just kind of getting into a comfortable, look at that cadence, that is just that cadence. We can just see that cadence slowing down, just producing that power to power up the hill and then speeding back up again. And there we can see Austin and Austin Parker in the top left hand corner there. We can just see him pick him up like Where's Wally in the top of the screen there. Cadence is starting to pick up again as he's starting to increase that speed. You can see Jackie Jones there, who's just lying there, continuing to grind away at those pedals. Austin will be probably trying to close that down, but will Jackie Jones be able to hold off Austin and kind of be able to keep that lap counter ticking over nicely? Paul now quite comfortably cooling down there, very sensibly just tapping it out on the pedals. Parker now with 360 meters to go. Will this be a nice strong finish? It looks like he's back into the blue and the grey zone, just taking it easy. Jones has managed to pull out that gap a little, managed to hold off that little final attack from Parker. Is Parker really going to really finish this race strong? Is Austin going to put in that little bit of red zone? Is he going to put in this sprint finish? Is he really going to finish this race as strong as he started it? Can he hold it up? Can he close this gap down? Is he going to just get that one last little lap on Jones, or will Jones be able to hold him off for that? This is going to be really tight. I know he's going for it. Just Austin's definitely going for the to get that lap, but Jones I think just about held him off. Great race by Austin Parker, taking third place on the road in the hand cycling race. And yeah, we're back with the men A. So men A, so currently still down to those four racers: Usborne, Jaeger, Dowd and Rocker, after Warner dropped off. Warner's currently trying to hold off the chases of Lister, Kellison and Shaik as well. So will Warner be able to hold off that chasing pack who are currently chasing down his 5th place position? So these four have stuck together throughout the whole of this race. We've only got 7.2 kilometers to go, so we've only got a handful of laps left to go. So who's going to make that first jump? Who's going to make that real first decisive attack when they're going to do it? This is what these guys will be thinking now. So these guys will be thinking now, right, if I am going to, how are my legs feeling? Right now you're kind of, you're sitting in this bit zone, you're kind of cruising in the blue and the green, you're coming up to that start finish line, you're looking at that lap count, you're thinking, right, 6.9 kilometers to go. That's probably about 5 laps, I think that is, in respect to the size of these laps. So they're all thinking, right, okay, so we've got 5 laps to go. How are my legs feeling? They're just listening to what their legs are doing. They'll be listening to them right now, because if your legs are starting to feel heavy here when you're hitting this blue and this green zone along this flat bit, you know for a fact that as soon as you turn this right hand corner as you start to chase down Smith from Canada, you just know that this is going to really hurt. So they'll get a feeling for what the legs are feeling like there, and they'll also get a feeling for what the legs feel like now, where they're tapping it up at 7.3 watts per kilogram, all in the red zone. Nobody wants to get dropped here. Everybody's just listening and just learning and just finding out who's strong and who's not strong, who's got the power, who really wants to attack early, who wants to cause that attack late. And we see some of these riders will attack off early, like Usborne's going off the front there now, trying to create a little bit of space between the riders. We'll see that. And then what we'll also see is some of the other riders taking an attack a little bit later on as these 4 riders come back together. What we'll see is we'll see this little downhill section, they'll come back together, and we'll see probably somebody else taking on attack in the second little climb. This is what these guys have been working out. So how do my legs feel? Do I feel strong? Do I feel like I'm ready to really pounce on these final few laps? Am I just about to hang on? Am I going to just hang on in there? Am I going to just try and hold the wheel? Am I going to just kind of catch a strap and just cross my fingers, clench my buttocks, close my eyes and just hope to dear God that I stay in this draft for the final bit? These guys have got a reasonable gap on Warner, who's down in 5th place at the moment, so they know they're not going to get chased down. But this is all, so we've got 4 riders for 3 podium positions, so none of them will want to be letting go now. So they're just coming down that little decline. Nobody really attacked on that second little dip, but we've got another little bit of a bump coming up very soon as we come into this other lap. So whose legs are feeling good? Have a look at these cadences. So currently Oosborne not really showing a cadence at the moment, but we can see he's tapping along quite quickly there. So Oosborne's obviously got quite a fast cadence. He's working smart. He's trying to get that kind of spin that lactate out, really try and work out that lactate at the moment. That lactate will build you in these really high power climb bits, and in these sections where it's a little bit flatter, where it's a little bit downhill, they'll be spinning those legs around, just desperately trying to kind of flush that lactate, try and kind of get those muscles back into a position where they can start producing the power yet again. Round this tight right hand corner again, up this really steep, up to 14.3%. I think we saw at the peak of its 14.7% we see at the peak of its incline, and that's certainly going to really hurt. Oh, Dowd there dropping off into on the red zone. Is that going to cost him? Is that going to cost O'Dowd? And we need Jones there coming. He's got 400 meters to go in the top right hand corner there. Jones coming up to finishing his lap to take 4th position in the hand cycling race. Jones, sorry, still don't have the positions at the moment for the hand cycling league, but I will try and track that down as we go through. If we can. Yes, I'll get that be able for you in any second. So we've managed to find that hand cycling series. Apologise for that little delay there. So currently the hand cycling series, we've got Jackie Jones, who actually we're following on the road there now, is currently leading the series with 1,315 points. Santa Kuman, who took the win there today with 1,000 points. So that's really closed the gap from Kuman to Jones, with Parker, who's currently in 7th position, currently on the road. A great race today. They're coming in on 3rd place today on the road. And Kuster currently not showing at the moment, so Kuster, new name on the series there today, so Kuster will be joining the roster at the moment on the hand cycling series. But we are going to see a little bit of a change in the league at the moment. So Jackie Jones still will be leading the series with 1,315 points to date, but Santa Kuman got the win today. Very impressive performance by Sander there today, just taking the win from Kovalainen, and with Jackie Jones in 3rd place. So there will be certainly some changes in the hand cycling league come the next race. Kuster, 420 meters to go before the end, tapping it away. They're currently in the blue zone, currently comfortable at the moment on a downhill bit. So we're coming up to that last little straight. Let's see whether Kuster cruises at home, or let's see whether he puts in that little bit of effort. Let's see if he just starts to ramp up some of this power. Let's see if he starts practicing these sprint finishes that we can see. So currently in the blue zone, so currently just taking it nice and easy. Come on, Kuster, let's see that powerful finish that you have. Let's just see what you've got in that tank to be able to finish this race strong. Let's finish this off. Let's really complete this hand cycling race with a flourish as he taps away. 49 meters to go, currently putting out 107 watts with a cadence of 50, crosses the line to 5th place and completing the hand cycling roster for today. Really good racing there today, a good competition there at the front between Kunin and Kovalainen too. And there's the final results of the hand cycling race today. So we got Sander Kuman coming in 1st place, just putting a bit more of a challenge onto Jackie Jones in 4th for the series. Marko Kovalainen, great battle we saw there today between Kuman and Kovalainen in the early part of the race with Austin Parker. We could see Austin working really hard at his garage there in 3rd position. Great to see that 2 of the hand cyclists were on the Zoom, or 3 cyclists were on the Zoom call today, showing their wares and showing how hard they were working. With Holly Kuster, great to see another female. We saw Jo Berriani winning the paracycling, one of the female paracyclists winning the race, and we can also see Kuster, one of the girls, Holly Kuster, one of the girls in the hand cycling, coming in 5th place, putting herself into the standings now. So back to these A and B races. So we're coming up with only a few laps to go. We can just see the difference there. So the men, just to look at the difference in speed. So the men currently top right hand corner, middle of that box, 2.5 kilometers to go. men's B race, top right hand corner, middle of the box at the bottom, 5.1 kilometers to go. We can just see that these men's A races are almost 2 laps ahead of these B races. Just shows the power and the ability and the difference of these riders at the different standards. And this is one of the main reasons why we have 2 different series, the men's A's and men's B's, so that we have really good competitive racing around these circuits. So Bird there currently has got he's broken away from the rest of his front 5. So Wazarek, Rice, Nelson, and that front 4 that we saw before, Bird's actually made an attack and gone off the front. The other 3 are chasing him down. They're still within reach. Boglowski is just kind of currently is out of that reckoning. He dropped off the front pack a good few laps ago. Nowhere to be pick these riders back up again, but certainly definitely not to reach a Millum, who's in 6th place at the moment. Be interesting to see whether Bird has made this attack too early. He's got 4.6 kilometers to go, and he's got the chasing pack only about 100 meters or so behind him. So it's certainly all to be played for. We've got Nelson, Rice, and Wizarek actually chasing him down there. But they've only got 250 meters. Now, I did say that 250 meters was quite a big gap. We can see that in this race where we saw Kate Ouellette, who had almost a 342 meter gap to close down, managed to close that down within the last lap. It was about 140 meters down to 50 meters and managed to close that gap down and managed to take that 3rd place position. So these guys, Nelson, Wizarek and Rice, certainly are not going to give up the ghost yet. Bird is certainly hasn't got enough air between him and those 3 to be able to call it. So back with the men's A. This is the last lap. They've all managed to stick together. Who has got the legs for this final flourish? This is where we're going to see absolute fireworks coming up here. We could see before Oosburn absolutely smash it off the front in this climb earlier, and he's doing exactly the same again. Oosburn obviously just absolutely oodles of power. Just look at him powering away there from O'Dowd, Rocco and Jaeger. Now, can he sustain this? What we saw this before, Matt Oosburn had a huge amount of power coming over the top of this hill, hitting over 8 watts per kilogram and then just easing off the power. Is he going to be able to sustain it? No, look, he's eased off again. So Matt Oosburn has actually put that smash up that climb, but he's not able to sustain this power to be able to maintain that gap. Although is Jaeger going to be able to make it back? Oosborn's easing off again. So although he was able to really attack up the top of that climb, he's not able to sustain that power. And this is what we can say with these really powerful guys. They can go into this red zone. They can hold that power for 20-30 seconds, but they just can't sustain it. Matt just flicking into the red again. But O'Dowd, Rocco, Jaeger now going into the red as well. Oosborn having to respond to keep on track. Rocco now with the attack. The ninjas in the black suit, he's started to make this attack. Oosborn's trying to close that gap down. Currently 60 meters, 20 meters, 380 meters to go. Going to turn this, going to brake, turn this corner along the home straight now. Rocco has got the gap. He's got 11 meters on Oosburn. He's got another 20 meters on O'Dowd and Jaeger in their 4th position. So this is going to be a fantastic finish. So who's got that sprint? Who has got the legs? And then Matt Oosburn, 14 watts per kilogram. Rocco with 10 watts per kilogram. Can he hold him off? Can he hold off Matt Oosburn for the win? He crosses the line. Oosburn has to ease back off again. Oosburn takes Rocco 1st position. Oosburn in 2nd position. O'Dowd, is he going to be able to hold off Jaeger? Oh, is Jaeger going to cross the line ahead of him? Oh, was it a tactical move by O'Dowd? Oh, that could be controversial. Jaeger, the American, taking 3rd place. O'Dowd in 4th place. Was that a team decision? Or was that just O'Dowd's legs had gone, allowing Jaeger to take 3rd position? Warner, who was part of that front 5 at the early part of the race, dropping off somewhere through the difficult 2nd album, coming into 5th position there. Still got another 800 meters to go, so he's got about 2/3 of a lap to go there before his race finishes. But certainly not easy, and then we can start to see the men results coming up already. Mason Rocker taking the win with a really very, very solid attack up that 2nd hill. We saw Matt Oosburn there absolutely trying to attack on that first bit of the climb going into the red zone, but not able to sustain it. If Matt had managed to sustain that effort through that little rolling section, I'm fairly sure that Matt would have had enough to be able to hold off Rocker. But good attack by Rocker on the 2nd bit of the climb, the 2nd bit of the hill, taking it over the top of the bank, taking the lead into the final sprint finish and managing to hold off Matt Oosborn, who was pushing up to 14-15 watts per kilogram against Rocker's 11 watts per kilogram. but he managed to hold him off. Warner tapping it up into 5th place there. He's got 200 metres to go. He's certainly not going to be threatened by Lister for the 5th position, although Lister currently is still likely to be holding top position because he currently has a 25-point gap on Mike Swart. And where is Mike Swart on the road in comparison to Lister? Lister's in 6th position, Swart down in 9th. There's about a kilometre between them, so there's about a 1 lap, almost a lap distance between Lister and Smog. Now Lister and Kellison, this is a good little battle. Is Lister going to, Lister's lost out a few points there. Kellison managing to get it past him. Lister is going to get him. He just tried to come back again at Kellison, but Kellison I think just managed to pip Lister on the line there. Lister obviously just didn't expect that sprint from Kellison to take him, and Kellison takes 6th place from Lister in 7th place. Hale in 7th place, the American, currently trying to hold up Cooper, who's in Cooper in Hill in 8th place, currently trying to hold up Cooper in 9th place with Swart there as well. So we've got these 3 guys. Is Hill made that little decisive attack? Is he going to be able to hold this off? He's still got a little way to go though before the end of the race. He's still got 600 metres. There's only 60 metres between them. Will Cooper and Swart be able to work together to close it back to the race? Matt Bird there, he's got 1. Matt Bird is on his last lap, so Matt Bird has managed to hold that gap, and if anything he's extended that gap out. So Matt's worked a really, sorry I'm saying Matt, may not be Matt at all. So Bird has managed to hold out that gap from the chasing pack from the B race. There was a team of 4 in that front group. We can see that's blown right apart. Bird made a great attack with about 5 kilometers to go, and he's managed to extend that lead. So currently Bird is currently leading. Hill there now finishing in 8th position with Cooper and Swart behind him. Cooper looks like he's going to be able to get the jump on Swart at the moment. Hill into 8th, Cooper coming over the road in 9th. Swart currently, Mike Swart is sitting 2nd in the series. Lost out a little bit there to Lister today on the road, but Lister certainly lost out a little bit to some of the other riders, but thankfully he's got a bit of a gap in front of him of the series at the moment. So I don't think those positions are going to change a great deal, particularly because there's no Charlie Revel today. Disappointing that Charlie wasn't able to make it there today, but Rob Miller currently in 4th place in the series. He's been lapped a few times, but Rob I think will be cementing his position in 4th place, and whether he'll be able to actually take some points from Charlie Revel. Currently he's 108 points behind Charlie Revel. If he can score more than 108 points today, he will be jumping over Charlie into the podium positions. Back with Bird now. Final lap of the B race. He's got 300 metres to go. He's got 320 metres on Nelson, Wuzarek and Rice. I'm fairly sure that Bird will be able to just cruise it at home, and we can see there he's just gone into threshold, into that yellow zone. He's currently just comfortably cruising along this flat straight, home straight. He knows this is in the bag. He knows that this Bird has been let out the cage today. He's spread his wings and he flew from about 5 kilometers to the finish. Very, very impressive attack from 5 kilometers to go. We're now in with that sprint finish at the end there. We've got Nelson Wuzarek with a massive attack here, 12-13 watts per kilogram. What a sprint he's putting in. He's certainly absolutely blown Nelson away. And he absolutely takes that 2nd place. Great sprint there. Nelson just enough to... Oh no, he hasn't. Rice has rubbed him on the line. Nelson thought he had that. He thought he had that podium position. You could just see. Look at Justin. Come on, Justin. You could be happy about. You got to look happy about that 3rd position on the road. Look, they've even got the balloons out for you because that 3rd position. What a fantastic effort by Justin Rice to snatch that 3rd position there from Nelson after that great sprint finish. Back on the road, finishing off with the A's and the B's. So Kuchowski now currently in 11th position, and the A's there finishing off 50 meters to go with Bagalovsky, who we saw was part of that front group in the early part of the race, currently coming in the 5th position after that great sprint finish from Rice and Nelson there. Bagalovsky currently in 5th, tapping in along there. He's certainly got no competition behind him at the moment. He's in the red zone though, so he's certainly not taking it easy. He's got about half a lap to go, so Bagalovsky is going to be continuing to work right to the line. Smith in the A category in 13th position, currently coming along that home straight there. 300 metres to go. Let's just see whether Smith puts in a really good sprint, a really good bit of effort to take his training today up to a good level, or whether he's just going to cruise it in there, start his cool down to 140 metres early, and just enjoy the atmosphere that this Tulsa crowd is no doubt showing. There's probably a good few beers in by now, so that volume will be increasing. The calls for power will be increasing as well, and Smith takes it across the line. Bagulowski takes it over the line as well to secure. Oh, he doesn't. Oh, what's happening? No. Don't have a technical failure now. This heart will be absolutely in his mouth. He's got 30 metres to go. He's just willing this. Has he got enough downhill to carry him over the line? Oh, whoa, that was nearly a disaster. Was he just playing with us? If he was, what a cheeky monster. Millen there, 6th place, coming around the corner. 400 metres to go, about a third of a lap to go. 6th place in the B category. There we can see on the top right that red power zone, just telling us that the RGT is forcing the rider to brake. Absolutely pointless pedaling there, because you know that RGT will not apply any of that power to you when you're closing round those corners, as it makes you brake. Millen on the final straight, 6th position at the moment on the road, with Suharder, the Frenchman, behind him. So Millen looks like he's going to comfortably take 6th. And we can see on the top right hand of the screen all those little white dots, all those riders who are currently still out on the course. Suharder, very nice. Oh, nice jersey, nice bright jersey there from Suharder, France in 7th place. Kind of coming up to Smith, who he's obviously lapped a few times, or once or twice already, coming over the line in 7th place. And we will start to see these riders starting to come in. We can see down the field that these riders are just breaking up a little bit, and we can see the final results for the men B. Mitch Bird, great attack by Mitch from about 5 kilometers to go, really did very, very well. Certainly put the power down. I was expecting Wizarek, Rice and Nelson to be able to close him down, but to be fair, he spread his wings, caught the draft, off he went, soared away, and the other 3 were not able to close him down. Great finish though from Rice and Nelson. Nelson looked like he had it. Justin Rice, absolutely, as he should always do, 100% right to the line, managed to absolutely snatch 3rd from the jaws of Nelson, as Nelson came in 0.2 of a second behind Justin, just by easing it off on the line there, with Bagulowski, who worked really hard with the front group for the first bit of the race, just dropped off, but managed to hold his power going to keep his position and stay in 5th. David Millen in 6th position, and we were seeing the rest of the riders starting just to come across the line. We can see on the left hand side there, the screen, we can see all of the riders. The gaps are just increasing between them. We've got a nice little race coming up behind us. We've got a group of 3 with Hambrick, Brocco and Nelson there, so it'll be interesting. So Hambrick currently leading the B race standings, and Brocco currently in 3rd, so this is certainly going to be one for the points. Who's going to get it? Is Hambrick going to be able to do it? Brocco's going to be Brocco from the Netherlands taking the sprint finish with Hambrick, with Nelson coming in 3rd place. So these guys well down the rank, well down the orders there today, but probably good enough to be able to get enough points to be able to hold their position. Riston 14th there in the men's. So we can see all the way down, we're getting these little groups coming in, and we're starting to see some of those gaps grow a little bit between the groups. We can see on the right hand side Suhard coming in 7th, but whether this looks like he might have decided not to have any vowels at all in his surname, whether that was by choice or whether that was by typo. Interesting. So let's have your thoughts about what the missing vowel might be in his name. Rob Miller from Race 3R, my home team, currently sitting 4th in the series, after being lapped a couple of times, currently sitting in 15th on the road. Certainly got plenty of air in front and behind him. Currently coming up Crybaby Hill there with 3.3 kilometers to go, another couple of laps to go for Rob Miller. Riston of the men's B race, 160 meters to go, currently coming along that, finishing straight in that beautiful multicolored jersey. That's a great finish there by Riston. Look at that red zone, putting that effort in that last little bit to actually cross the line with a good strong finish. Billing as well, 15th position, finishing strong. A good bit of red and yellow to show for his efforts today. So we're now starting to see these A and B guys starting just to roll in now, in ones and twos, little small groups and individual, really now starting to race their own race now. But as we can see, you know, some of these higher place racers not really showing up for the race there today, allowing some of these lower place racers to really pick up quite a few points, and we can see some change in the series. Currently the men's A race has 113 riders in the standings, the B race has 86 riders in the standings, so you miss one race and that can cost you quite expensively in any of these series that you're currently taking part in. Rob Miller, got about 2 laps to go. Aponte from America is currently just going on his last lap now. So all these riders still, look, Aponte there, still hitting the red zone. Miller's in the blue zone now. He knows that he hasn't really got anything to race to. Rob will be saving himself for some of the other series. A lot of these riders that we see racing in the Echelon Racing series will not just be racing in 1 or 2 series. They'll be using a lot of these fantastic RGT racing series to look in many of them. As we can see, all these racing series are growing across the platform. All of the big racing teams are creating their own series, pulling these races in, and they are attracting a really good, dynamic racing crowd, because the race dynamics in RGT are so realistic and they are so good. This is why we're seeing such fantastic racing on the RGT platform, because the racing is absolutely fantastic. So let's have a little look at the standings so far in the races so far. So how is it panning out? So men's A. So finishing today, what a great race we saw there today, and as we thought we'd see some great attacks, but we saw that last little bit on the men's A race. We had that final 4 going into that final lap. Matt Osborne taking that first attack up the first bit of the climb, not managing to sustain his power. Then Mason Rocker coming over the top of him on the second part of the climb, holding his position downhill and producing a fantastic sprint finish to be able to hold off Matt Osborne's power to take first position, followed by Jaden Yeager and Oliver Dowd, both racing for the Restart Racing team into 3rd and 4th, followed by Hayden Warner, who just dropped off the front group. And then going down we see Brian Callison, Mike Lister 7th place, currently probably cementing his position at the top of the A race standings. Eric Hill, John Cooper, Mike Swart no doubt holding his 2nd position, pulling away from Charlie Revel, who wasn't in attendance today. Leon Kucharski, Rune Libyans, Jason Smith and Rob White currently the riders who have finished in the K category, but there are still a few riders on the road there. Ryan Miller's there at the moment. He has got about a lap to go, and Uchalka as well on the road too. Let's look at the B race finishing standings as well. Let's see who finished there. Mitch Bird, who, very different to both the ladies and the men's A race. Mitch decided to make that really decisive attack, about 5 kilometers to go. Fantastic effort, managed to make that stick from the chasing trio of Wazarek, Rice and Nelson. And we saw an absolutely superb sprint finish there today between Justin Rice and Richard Nelson. Richard Nelson thought he had it on the line, 10 meters to go. Justin Rice, head down, eyes closed, backside up, power down, managed to take it on the line by probably a photo finish to get the 3rd and final podium position. Ogolowski, after doing a great amount of work in the first bit of the race, just dropped off and came in 5th. Milam, Suhard, Bunt, Hackleton and Christopher Cappy rounding off the top 10. And then we see the actual race for the series really picking up there. So Brock who currently is sitting 3rd in the B series, just managing to hold off or take the win to Marion Hambrick, and that little sprint up between the two, and Brock just providing that little bit more power at the end there to be able to hold off Hambrick, who's currently leading the B race standings, with Moira Nelson, Riston, Billing, Haynes and Aponte with the current riders who finish. And we can still see some of those B riders still on the road. We can see all the way down to P26 at the moment, so there's still a few riders still ticking away. They will continue to race their race, and they will be continuing to pull in points for their team. Tyler Kerry Tyler, they're down in 24th position, currently sitting 5th in the B race standing. So that will probably cement that position, unless there are riders down below Kerry who can just pull up some more points there. So we will see that next week. We'll see some of the other B riders coming in there now. Brennan Nelson, Gary Little coming in 18th and 19th as well. And Borders is our 20th rider in a row. We'll see Borders through to the end of this race. And then we'll see the final standings in the paracycling as well as the hand cycling, just to remind us what the results were there too, before we wrap up for today's fantastic race. And I can certainly agree, all of these 5 races have had something really exciting to show for them. The ladies with technical failures causing problems, and then fantastic responses as well from Kate Ouellette to chase down Eve Marie Dora. In the A race, we saw really very strong ride by the front 4 with a fantastic sprint finish at the end. And in the hand cycling, we saw Booman riding away with it from Kovalainen, great finish. In the paracycling too, we saw Kilgore just pushed into 2nd position by Joe Berenier, who really put in a massively strong performance there today to actually take that by a couple of laps. So every single one of these races looked very different. They all panned out very differently, and this is one of the beauties of RGT racing. Even though we had 5 races, same course, same efforts, every single one of them had very slightly different stories to be told. Every single one of them was a brilliant story, and I am fairly sure that we will see very similar things next week when we have the pros attempting to read the same course next week. We can see Tulsa Tough there, 22nd of January. This is where we will see the pros. So come around next week and join Brad and Lauren for commentary to see the pros tapping it round. We will see some of these community races, no doubt, in those races as well, mixing it up with the pros on the same course. That puts them that advantage. They know what this course has to bring. They know what can happen in these races. So that does give the community races that little bit of an advantage, because they just know what to expect. And that's probably why we're seeing some of these community riders doing so well in the risers. And currently at the moment in the pro race, we've got Lister, Swart, Revel and Blodgett all competing in the men's pro races. There's only Rob Miller, who of the Community League, who isn't currently competing in the Pro League. And in the women, we're also seeing Jackie Godby and Gabriella Sherman competing in the Pro League. So next week we'll see the Tulsa Tough for the pros, and we can see those beautiful vista of RGT roads, the magic roads. We can just see how that pans out in the Tulsa. No doubt the Tulsans will be absolutely thoroughly enjoying their 3-day festival at the moment, even though we're 5 months early. But we brought that to RGT today. We've seen 5 fantastic races: the women's, the hand cycling, the paracycling, the men's A and the men's Bs. Some fantastic racing all the way around, great entertainment, great activity, great power, great efforts. So thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you to ZMS for the broadcast. Yet again, brilliant work and fantastic work by all the cycling. And we will hope to see you next week for the Pro Series, but also tune in for some more ZMS broadcasts as the week goes on for more brilliant RGT racing.